Well, damn. If this is the last that we will see of NXT in this format, in this structure, and this is the final takeover event of its kind to see NXT like this, then they certainly went out on a high note, because this top to bottom is one of the best NXT TakeOver events that we have seen in a very, very long time. Welcome, everyone, to DerekJ Speaks, and we are talking about NXT TakeOver 36 live from the Capitol Wrestling Center, which is now, apparently going forward, going to be the new home for NXT, or maybe it's going to be the Performance Center. Either way, it's not going to be Full Sail University anymore, as NXT's partnership with Full Sail has come to an end. Going into this show with some of the matches and some of the moments that we were going to get, including, most notably, Samoa Joe making his big in-ring return, I thought the Capitol Wrestling Center was a poor choice and a poor option for a takeover event like this. I was hoping they would be able to get into a bigger building in front of a bigger audience. But kudos to them, kudos to the crowd who were on fire for every single match from the very beginning all the way up until the end, even with their reactions and their chants being shocking in certain cases and very unpredictable. They were very much a huge part of this show, and it felt like one of those old school takeovers where you have a good crowd, you have a strong crowd behind it, and it just feels like a big deal. It feels like a bigger event, and it helps that you had a bunch of matches up and down the card that were stellar, including one match in particular that is already my candidate for match of the year, not just in WWE NXT, but in all of wrestling for 2021, that being Walter and Ilja Dragunov, which is funny because their first match last year was also one of the best matches of last year. So that's pretty hilarious to me that now, a year later, they have a rematch, and that rematch was just as good, if not even better, than their previous. So hats off to those two right up the gate. And there were a few other really good matches on this card. We will get into all of this. But first, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, then go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, show this channel some love, and of course, follow me on Twitter, where I talk all about this stuff every single week at DerekJ Speaks. And now, let's go ahead and get into this show. We kick things off with LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes. This has been one of the better stories that's been running on NXT television these last few weeks. This traces all the way back a few months ago at this point, when LA Knight defeated Cameron Grimes in a match where, had Grimes lost, he would become LA Knight's butler, and that's exactly what happened. And their skits on NXT have been really fun. It's been really good, and of course Cameron Grimes has gotten very much over as a sympathetic babyface to the crowd, and now we got the big rubber match. Well, not necessarily a rubber match, since the previous matches LA Knight has won all of them, so this was Cameron Grimes basically his final shot, because the stipulation here was that if LA Knight won this one, then Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man himself, would become LA Knight's bodyguard, his butler, I should say. This was a nice little opener. Nothing overly special, stand out about it. It was just a very fun match. It was a very fun story that was told, and I thought both men played their roles very well. Ted DiBiase on the outside, of course, played a very major, pivotal role towards the end. We see LA Knight go to the outside, getting very frustrated. He grabs the $1 Million Championship belt, and he is bringing it into the ring. He's arguing with the ref inside, and he's arguing with DiBiase on the outside. So Knight gets back in the ring, gets a kick right to the back of the head from Cameron Grimes. LA Knight goes back to the outside, where behind the referee's back, Ted DiBiase strikes LA Knight, I should say. To be fair, LA Knight tried to hit him first. So DiBiase just blocked it, and he swung at LA Knight. The referee came over to Ted DiBiase to give him the $1 Million Championship belt to put it back over by the ring announcer area. But DiBiase threw the belt back into the ring, slid it back to Cameron Grimes. So the referee had her back turned once again. And when she did so, DiBiase locked Knight in the $1 Million Dream. We saw Cameron Grimes use the $1 Million Dream earlier in the match. And now we saw DiBiase, the man who made the move famous, use it on LA Knight himself. Throws LA Knight back in the ring. Cameron Grimes shouts to the moon and hits the cave-in and gets the win. Cameron Grimes is the new $1 Million champion. No more butlers. Good win. It was pretty much a given that Cameron Grimes was going to win this match, but it was still fun. It was still fun. I like Cameron Grimes. There was a time where I didn't. There was a time where he did absolutely nothing to interest me or entertain me whatsoever. But I have definitely come around on Cameron Grimes. He is one of the better sympathetic baby faces on the roster, and I enjoy him. And I'm glad to see that he is now the $1 Million champion. Should be interesting to see what he does with that championship going forward. Up next was the NXT Women's Championship match. Dakota Kai challenging Raquel Gonzalez. Dakota Kai came out with some fiery pink hair. I'm pretty sure she had that hair on the Go Home Show episode of NXT the previous week. But this was the first full look at it. This was a very interesting match just for the crowd reactions alone. The crowd was very much in support of Dakota Kai, and there was a very mixed reaction for Raquel Gonzalez, and at certain points during the match, the fans just outright booed Raquel Gonzalez. So I don't know if that's a thing where there's just a certain dislike for Raquel, or if it's just more of an infatuation and a love for Dakota Kai and respect for her and her talent. I feel like it's a little more of that than it is anything fully against Raquel. I don't think the fans have turned on her the way they just completely turned on Karrion Kross, which was unbelievable to see. I don't even know when it happened or how it happened, but it happened for sure, and we saw it in the main event of this show. We'll get to that later. But nevertheless, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, they put on a really good match here. The story going in, obviously, Dakota Kai feeling betrayed by Raquel winning the championship, leaving her in the dust, and she felt that she was owed this championship shot because she was the one who introduced Raquel Gonzalez to all of us in NXT in the first place. So the basic setup here, I thought they had a really good match. It was a very nicely paced match. Again, the crowd reactions kind of added a certain extra element to it. We see both women up on the top rope. Dakota manages to be the one to slip out, and in doing so, she kind of pulls Raquel downward, and so now Raquel is up on the second rope in the corner, upside down. Dakota gives her a big kick right to the face. Raquel is still up top. She turns back upright and turns around to face Dakota. Dakota jumps up, tries to go for the Yakuza kick, but gets caught in midair. And while up on that second rope, Raquel Gonzalez hits the big Kachigona bomb, I think is what she calls it. This huge power bomb like move. It's her finisher, and she hit it from the top rope, so you know she was going to win with it. And that's exactly what happened. She got the 1, 2, 3. Raquel Gonzalez is still the NXT Women's Champion. A good match, solid match, good effort from Dakota Kai. It looks to me that she is Raw or SmackDown bound, considering the fact that she has been making appearances on Main Event and in dark matches at TV tapings in recent weeks. So I think we know she has a new adventure for her up there. So good luck to her. After the match, while Raquel is celebrating, we see an appearance from Kaylee Ray, the former NXT UK Women's Champion. She came out, she stood on the entrance stage and gazed up into the ring at Raquel Gonzalez, who was holding the championship. And that was the big appearance from Kaylee Ray. The fans chanted for her, cheered big time for her. And I just stood there and thought, why couldn't they do that with Becky Lynch at SummerSlam? Why couldn't you have Bianca retain her championship in a separate match and then have Becky come out afterwards and come face to face with Bianca instead of doing what they did? I still don't understand that. So thank you, NXT, for reminding me of that horrible, horrible situation. But didn't have to think about it too long, because up next was the match that I was looking forward to the most, not only on this show, but the match that I was looking forward to the most all weekend. Out of every match on Rampage, out of every single match at SummerSlam, all 50 of them, this was the match that I was the most hyped for, that being the NXT UK Championship, Walter defending his championship against Ilja Dragunov. Walter coming into this match in his 870th day as the NXT UK champion. Of course, that reign was extended a bit due to the pandemic last year and the lack of television shows for NXT UK, but that's still an impressive reign. Since then, he has defended his championship in some very big matches, including against Ilja Dragunov and others like Tyler Bate and a few other individuals, and he has been a fantastic champion. He has been presented almost like this big final boss for all these, smaller, scrappy baby faces to go up against, almost getting the job done, but not quite getting it done. And this was the first time these two have faced off again since their original match 10 months ago, where Dragunov did not win. And so now, all these months later, all this build, it felt like we were going to see a new champion crowned. It felt like the right time to pull the trigger, and they did that, but they did it after a brutal war between Dragunov and Walter. Dragunov had welts and bruises all over his body, all over his chest and his shoulders. He already came into this match kind of with a scrape above his eye due to the match with Roderick Strong the previous week on NXT. But man, these two beat the hell out of each other, and it was so much fun to watch. It is a match that you are not going to see just anywhere in WWE. Walter is a very snug competitor. He's a very stiff competitor. And Ilja Dragunov can hang in there with the best of them. And so you put these two together and you get just a crazy match. The crowd was hanging on everything that these guys were doing. They were firmly behind Dragunov. They were really rooting for him to get the job done here. I thought this was a fantastic match. This was easily the best match of the night, hands down, because it was not only the best match of the night, it, in my opinion, will go down as one of, if not the best WWE match of the entire year. It was that good, guys. Of course, Walter, it's a Walter match, so we're going to get the famous Walter chops, which he chopped the crap out of Ilja Dragunov many times in this match. But Dragunov had many chops of his own that he caught Walter with. Dragunov went for a jump up move at Walter, got hit with a clothesline in midair, and then Walter hit him with a very sick looking lariat. Only good for a 2 count though. Walter starts chopping at Dragunov again, but it's firing him up. Eventually, Dragunov gets Walter down, goes up top, hits the senton. Then he gets up, goes for the uppercut, and he's caught in midair in a sleeper from Walter. And then Dragunov kind of dumps Walter overhead on the back of his neck, and then he does hit the uppercut. Walter eventually gets up, goes up top. Dragunov follows him, hits a big superplex from the top rope, and then hits a running drop kick in the ropes area. Walter, not to be outdone, hits a huge standing drop kick of his own, hits a big power bomb on Dragunov. Again, only good for a 2 count. You get another chop from Walter. These things are just thunderous sounding. It is brutal. And it is unreal how loud these chops from Walter are. But he hits a chop, he hits a slap, which is almost as worse, if not worse. Goes for another power bomb, hits him with it, goes up top, hits a big splash. And this is the move that initially won Walter the UK Championship back at NXT TakeOver New York in 2019 against Pete Dunne. So he hits the splash, tries to get the 1-2-3 here, but it's only good for a 2 count. Dragunov ends up locking in a sleeper on Walter, the sleeper of his own. Walter tries to break from it. He tries to get out of it. He tries to reach for the ropes. He tries to power his way out of it, but Dragunov ends up stopping the hold. So he breaks the hold, and he just starts raining down blows on Walter, raining blows to the back of his head, just knocking him silly. He reapplies the sleeper, cinches it in. Walter is struggling. He's trying to fight out of it, but eventually he has no choice but to tap out. And the reign of Walter as the UK champion comes to a dramatic end, and Ilja Dragunov is the new NXT UK champion. That quick summary of the match is not even enough to do it justice. If you didn't watch this match, first of all, shame on you. I know the state of NXT is what it is right now, but this match in particular is one that you need to go out of your way to see. I know it might not be for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but when you get 2 guys in a match like this, like you have with Dragunov and like you have with Walter, who are just so brutal with their offense, and there were parts of this match, including some of the parts that I mentioned, but there were even parts that I did not bring up that were very brutal and very difficult to watch. Dragunov looked like he had been in the fight of his life coming out of this match. But that made the finish and him winning the championship mean that much more and feel that much more special. When you look at how Dragunov looked by the end of this match, coming out of this match, kind of a scrape over his head. He's got all these bruises and all these welts and just looks just completely beaten down. And he still comes out on top, and he still comes out with the championship. Walter did not let that title go easily. He gave everything he had to keep that championship and keep this long reign going on even more. But Dragunov was just too resilient to let it go. It was a great story. It was a great story told, and you had the right 2 men to tell it. And I just can't praise this match enough. This was an amazing match, and it is definitely my favorite match of the year right now. Kind of up there with the triple threat main event from WrestleMania early this year with Edge, Bryan, and Roman. And of course, the Sasha Banks Bianca Belair match. This one right here is just on a different level. The crowd was fully invested, and they were just a bigger part of this match as anything else. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Best match of the night, hands down. There was no way the other 2 matches were going to follow this. And they were both good in their own right, but they could not hold a candle to what these guys did here. So, excellent stuff. Speaking of which, up next we had Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly in what they called the Undisputed Finale. It's a best 2 out of 3 falls match, with each fall having its own stipulation attached. Kyle O'Reilly picked the first fall, which was a straight wrestling match. Adam Cole picked the second fall, which was a street fight. And General Manager William Regal picked the third fall, if it were to go to a third fall, which of course it did. And it was a steel cage match. I have been just about done with this feud pretty much after their first match over WrestleMania weekend. It was good. I thought it was a little overbooked, went on way longer than it had any right to, and I just felt from that match and everything that they've been doing with this feud, they're trying to recapture that same magic that was there with those Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano matches, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for me. Kyle O'Reilly is not the same type of sympathetic babyface that Johnny Gargano was in that feud. And maybe I'm wrong in jumping to that conclusion that they're trying to model that feud to be the foundation of this one. But it just came off like that. It came off as second-rate Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa feud. And it just has not really clicked for me. So I was very happy that this was going to be the end. One way or another, this was going to be the final match that these two had against each other. And I thought it was good. But at the end of it, I came out of it thinking, why was this match 2 out of 3 falls? The first fall was completely done within minutes. And even the final fall, just no drama to that finish. It just kind of happened. It seemed like they were building to a particular big spot there, and then it just kind of got cut off. And the middle part, the second fall, which was the street fight, was the longest part of the match. And it just begs the question, why wasn't this just a street fight? Or why wasn't this just one stipulation instead of being 2 out of 3 falls just for the sake of doing it? But I still thought that they had a very good match overall. So we'll go through it here. The first match, or the first fall, I should say, of course, was, as I said, a regular wrestling match, and came to an end, like I said, within like 5 or 6 minutes or something. Maybe it wasn't that short, but it did not take long for this match to end. And we see Adam Cole going for the Panama Sunrise, and Kyle O'Reilly, during the flipping process, manages to catch Cole and sits down on the roll-up to pin him. So just like that, Kyle O'Reilly is up 1, gets the first fall, and we move on to the street fight. And once the street fight started, we immediately get all the weapons. We get the trash cans, we get the steel chairs, we get the kendo sticks, what feels like WWE's favorite weapon, the kendo stick. It gets used mainly by Cole, who started to work over Kyle O'Reilly's ribs after O'Reilly got bounced off the top rope, rib first, and kind of crashed onto the floor after a big super kick from Adam Cole. So Cole pretty much punished O'Reilly from that point, punishment to his knees. He even locked in the lockjaw at one point, which I thought was pretty cute. We see O'Reilly start to will himself back into it, start to make a comeback. There's a chair propped up in the corner. He has Adam Cole positioned against the chair in the corner. He goes to the opposite corner, charges at Cole. Cole sidesteps him, and O'Reilly ends up running right into the chair. Both men turn around. They start throwing kicks at each other until they kick each other both in the face. Both men are down. Both men go to the outside, opposite sides of the ring, and they pull out their own respective chains to wrap around their fists and use against each other back in the ring. Cole gets the better of him, but then O'Reilly starts to make his own comeback once again. They both go to the outside. They're both making their way up the ramp. Adam Cole gets thrown off of the entrance ramp into the plexiglass fence wall on the side. Looked like a pretty sick landing there for him. Get back in the ring. Adam Cole props up 2 steel chairs facing against opposite each other with the tops of the chairs kind of pointed up. We've seen this used specifically in Adam Cole matches before, so I had a feeling that he was going to crash through it, but that's not what happened. O'Reilly tried to avoid it. He tried to position Cole's face onto the chairs. He goes up top, tries to dive down, but Adam Cole gets back up. He launches O'Reilly off the top, crashing through the chairs, hits the last shot, and Adam Cole gets the victory and wins the second fall. And now we are about to start the third and final fall inside of a steel cage. But before the cage can fully come down and surround the ring, we have doctors and officials coming in to check on Kyle O'Reilly. And Adam Cole is saying, screw that. He lifts up Kyle O'Reilly, goes to the outside before the cage can fully come down. He goes to the outside and he powerbombs O'Reilly on the edge of the announce table. Gets back in the ring. The cage is now fully starting to come down. O'Reilly is still being checked on. And eventually all the doctors and stuff leave. And it is O'Reilly and Cole battling it out. We see Cole throwing O'Reilly against the cage walls until O'Reilly starts to make a bit of a comeback of his own. He starts to launch Cole into the cage as well. And as far as I know, that was pretty much the last. The cage played a pivotal role in the remainder of this match. We see Adam Cole hit a low blow. Both men eventually go to the top rope on the side of the cage, fighting until Cole knocks O'Reilly off. He gets crotch on the top rope, plummets to the ring. Adam Cole off the top rope hits a Panama Sunrise, only good for a 2 count. At this point, Adam Cole busts out some handcuffs, and he handcuffs Kyle O'Reilly's arm to the rope right by the side of the cage. He begins to throw a bunch of super kicks at poor Kyle O'Reilly, who is basically defenseless. And he goes for one last super kick, but then Kyle O'Reilly catches Cole's leg in mid strike, locks in a leg lock, arm or knee bar type maneuver. Doesn't seem like he has it in for very long. Doesn't seem like a very dramatic fall here, or an overly dramatic moment, I should say. It looks cool, but it doesn't look like, yeah, I could expect Kyle O'Reilly to win here. But then that's exactly what happened. Adam Cole tapped out, and Kyle O'Reilly won. Kyle O'Reilly, while one arm being handcuffed, locks in Adam Cole in a leg lock knee bar, and Adam Cole taps out, and that's the end of the match. Kyle O'Reilly is the winner, and these fans in the Capitol Wrestling Center were not very happy. They chanted bullshit at this finish. I chant bullshit at the finish of the SmackDown Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. I chant bullshit at the finish of the Goldberg-Bobby Lashley match at SummerSlam. I do not think that this finish was bullshit, but I can understand the fans thinking that. There were some boos for Kyle O'Reilly. Again, the fans, very interesting in their reactions here. There were a lot of boos for Kyle O'Reilly, and he did not get this rousing ovation for vanquishing Adam Cole, who's been talking all this crap about him all these months. Adam Cole was the biggest star in this match. He got the bigger cheers, he got the bigger ovations. So when Kyle O'Reilly won, especially when he won the way he did, fans chanted bullshit, and they rejected it. So a good match, but now all signs point to the $1 million question of what is next for Adam Cole. We know his contract was up back in July, and it was around that time that he signed an extension to stay a little longer to finish off this feud with Kyle O'Reilly. A lot has changed since he initially signed that extension. We had a mass bloodletting of NXT cuts a few weeks ago. There's all this news and rumors and speculation. I guess it was almost confirmed earlier by Nick Khan in that interview with Ariel Helwani that we are going to get some type of revamp of the NXT brand. Not sure what that means exactly, but some changes are coming for NXT. And so all this news here, and the thought is, what is going to be the future of Adam Cole? Is he going to stay in WWE and head up to the main roster, head to Raw, head to SmackDown, or is his contract going to end, his extension is going to end, and he will leave the Fed and look for greener pastures elsewhere? Well, we're still in speculation mode. No one knows for sure. There's only one person on this world, on this planet, who knows exactly what Adam Cole is going to do with his future. But the speculation continues. PW Insider reported that Cole made his final NXT appearance tonight. So that does not necessarily mean this is his last appearance in the company. That just means that this is his last appearance in NXT. This was his last NXT match and apparently his last NXT appearance. Fightful Select has their own report, and they are reporting that as of Sunday, as of TakeOver, as of the moment that they were reporting this news, which was on Sunday, Adam Cole had not yet re-signed with the company. And then we see the Young Bucks. And of course, they love to troll with their Twitter bios. And this time, their bio was a link to a YouTube video that explains how to perform a seance. So if you get that inside joke, then you know why that would be funny. I am in no place to tell or say what Adam Cole should or should not do for himself, for his career, for his family, for his well-being, for his own happiness. That is for him to decide. And I, as a fan of his and someone who enjoys his work more often than not, and I see a ton of potential in him no matter where he goes. I see a man who has done all he can do in NXT. So his chapter in NXT is over. That's it. So what he does from here, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, or if he leaves and goes to an AEW, if he goes back to Ring of Honor, if he goes to Impact, goes to New Japan, wherever he goes, I personally, being a fan of his, I would like to see him leave. I just do not trust that there is anything good for him on that main roster. I do not trust them. I do not trust him. That being Vince McMahon. I do not trust, I don't trust Nick Khan either. He's on this chopping spree. I don't trust that even if Adam Cole signs this big fat contract and gets to Raw and gets in a prominent position, I don't trust that within a year from now he won't be another name being cut in the name of budget cuts to keep that ledger away from the red as much as we can. So I don't trust that there is a bright future ahead of Adam Cole in the long run on that main roster. So if you ask me as a fan, I personally would like to see him go elsewhere. I think AEW would be a good fit for him. I know they have a lot of talent right now, and I'm sure that whole thing of them signing ex-WWE guys, who cares? They sign talent. They sign talent that can help their roster and can beef up their roster and put on some damn good matches and entertaining moments for the fans. That's what it is for. It does not matter where they're coming from. It does not matter if they come from WWE. Who cares? I agree there is a limit, but it does not matter. So Adam Cole is someone who I would like to see in AEW, but only time will tell if that's going to be his final destination. And then in the main event, we have Karrion Kross defending the NXT Championship against Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's first wrestling match since February of 2020. So it's been well over a year since Joe has stepped foot in the ring in a match. Joe comes out looking like a badass. Karrion Kross comes out looking menacing and intimidating, I guess. But there was no Scarlett. He has not had Scarlett with him since coming to the main roster, and he has not had Scarlett here. Scarlett has not appeared with Karrion Kross for these last few weeks of NXT television, and she was nowhere to be found here. And this was met with very loud "We Want Scarlett" chants from the crowd, followed up by Hardy chants. So that told you right there what they think of Karrion Kross and how much they respect him as the champion. I thought these guys had a pretty good match. It was nothing really special. The previous match with Cole and O'Reilly could not come close to matching the excellence that was Ilja, Dragunov, and Walter, but they put on a really good match. This one, I liked it. This is a match that I really liked. I thought Joe looked very good. He looked a little slower in certain parts, especially towards the midway point, but after a certain point, it looked like he kind of started to regain his breath and got a burst of energy and another burst of life to him towards the finish. He came out the gate looking great, but there was a point there in the middle where it looked like he was, I don't want to say gassed, but it just looked like he was a little slower. But I thought these guys had a very good match. We see Joe go for the coquina clutch, but it got countered into an armbar from Kross, which eventually he transitioned into the cross jacket, which is the move he used on Joe all those weeks ago when Joe was the referee, and he choked out Samoa Joe. So it looked like we were going to get a repeat here in this match, but Joe managed to get to the rope, get for the break. Karrion Kross goes for a forearm strike to the back of Joe's head. He hit a few earlier in the match. He was going for one more, but got caught with a standing side Uranagi from Joe. Props Kross on the top rope, or Kross goes to the top rope, I should say. Gets met with a step-up enziguri kick from Samoa Joe, and Joe busts out the Muscle Buster, and he hits the Muscle Buster on Karrion Kross, gets the 1-2-3, and just like that, Samoa Joe becomes the first ever 3-time NXT champion. Very good match, very good finish, albeit predictable. You could see it coming a mile away, but I still thought it was very effective. So whatever this new future is for NXT, at least as of right now, its champion is going to be Samoa Joe, which is the right call. I'm very happy to have Samoa Joe back. Maybe my happiness for just seeing Samoa Joe wrestling again overshadows this match itself. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good match. I thought Karrion Kross was fine. I don't dislike him. I just think there are special features to his character that, when taken away, makes him less special. And it seems like ever since he first appeared on the main roster on Monday Night Raw, they went out of their way to make this man less special. So hopefully they can get him back on track. They can put Scarlett with him, get him in the winning column, and present him as this dominant force and this unique character that he once was. So, hope, Godspeed for Karrion Kross, and Godspeed for NXT. I don't know what the future holds, but it should be very interesting to see going forward. But as for this show, they definitely put on definitely put their best foot forward, and they put on one hell of a wrestling show here. I thoroughly enjoyed NXT TakeOver 36. I thought of the big three wrestling events that took place this weekend, this was easily my favorite in terms of the in-ring quality. Rampage was all about CM Punk. Nothing else could follow that. SummerSlam, outside of a handful of matches, it really was a mixed bag, middle-of-the-road show with catering a little more towards the thumbs-down column for me. So TakeOver was the best bet. It featured one of the best matches of the entire year. So it can't be anything less than a thumbs up. But very impressed. Very good work from the NXT crew here. And that is about it for me. I am exhausted. This was a very long weekend covering all this wrestling content, but I am still very happy and very honored that all of you come here to hear me talk about it. I definitely appreciate all of you, and I will see you down the road for whatever else comes out that I want to talk about. So until next time, thank you and good night.